to sit back and relax and enjoy some of my misfortune that I've had. So, this kind of all started when I was applying for my first ever job, and I wrote some notes, so I'm just going to be looking over there every now and again. So, I was at university around COVID time, and I decided that I was going to drop out because it wasn't worth it for me anymore. It just simply wasn't worth the time anymore. And yeah, much to the dismay of my parents, it just wasn't worth the tuition fee anymore. It had gotten so expensive, and we'd all moved to online classes anyway. So it wasn't really worth it. And yeah, so I said, right, I'm dropping out. I don't like this anymore. I want to move on to something else. So I won't say exactly what I do, but I started looking through Google. I was typing away and sort of saying, what can I do without a degree that still has a very valid career path? And I chose this thing, and I decided, right, well, I'm going to get a qualification anyway, so I'm going to do an apprenticeship. So I turned up for the interview. It's a very, very obviously entry level job, and I go for this interview, and there's a couple of people there. There's like the head of the department and the person who will be my manager. So I say, okay, cool. They start asking me questions and stuff, and going through like some of the job description and how I can fit into the role very well. And I said, okay, fine. So we do the interview, and I get up at the end, and this woman, who I will call Jane for the sake of this video. So Jane stands up, and what I tell you is the deadest handshake ever. I'm talking completely limp hand, and I don't know whether I was just overthinking it or not, but I was desperate. I was a bit down on my luck, and I needed this job. So I say, okay, well, I'm sure I'm just in my own head, right? So anyway, they call me back in a week's time, and they say, do you want the job? I say, oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. At the time, guys, bear in mind, this place was across the road from my house. We're talking easily less than a 2 or 3 minute walk. So I turn up on my first day. No one tells me where I'm supposed to go. I turn up and I say, yeah, I'm working in this department, and I got interviewed by this person. Like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. So I get taken to the correct floor and the correct room, and I say, okay, cool. My manager doesn't even speak to me on my first day. She's in the room, and I'm like, yeah, I remember you from the interview, and she's like, man, something like that. That's strange. But little did I know, that is not going to be the worst of what is to come. In my first week, I was asked to do something. It was like data entry, but the system had a couple of different knacks and quirks, so you had to do it a very specific way. Well, I didn't obviously know that, and I wasn't shown how to do it. So my manager gets an email that I've made a mistake from another department, and she sits there. Bear in mind, I am around 20 years old at the time, first office job, and she sits there and she goes, was learning to drive, so we said, okay, that's fine. As long as, obviously, like, you go there eventually. So I said, okay. So that's fine, not a problem. So then, they expect me to go to a site, so I say, well, as long as it's a one-off, I'll go. And I had to get a bus in the morning, and I'm not even kidding. It drove straight past me in the morning, missed my stop completely, and I chased it for 10 minutes into my local town, and I couldn't catch it. So I had to call a taxi, and I called somebody in my team. I said, look, I could be 5 or 10 minutes late in. I'm going to have to call a taxi. And yeah, the boss just went straight past me. So he says, okay, don't worry about it, it's fine. I get to the office. I somehow managed to get there only 1 minute late. So I'm like, amazing, okay. I'm like, amazing, this is actually not so bad. So the whole day goes by, and my boss comes over, and she's not supposed to be there. And she says, can I talk to you? I said, yeah, sure. And she says, I think you lied to me. I say, what? She says, I think you lied to me about this morning. So I said, what do you mean? And she said, you called. And, your team member, and they told me that you missed your bus, and then you were going to stay at home. And I said, no, that is not what happened at all. I said, the bus drove straight past me this morning. I chased it. I couldn't catch it. And then I ended up having to get a taxi, which cost me £20. £20 just to get to work. So they say, right, well, I just don't think you want this job as much as you told us you did. And I'm like, what is going on here? What is going on? And I was just flabbergasted. I really was. But this would continue for 18 months until I got my qualification. I mean, this woman threatened me with being fired numerous times. She put me on improvement plans because she just didn't like the way I answered emails. She put me on PIPs because she didn't think I answered emails properly. I'm like, okay. As well as making remarks about people from my generation. Which is pretty crazy, really. Because if I said it the other way around, you just know she would flip. So, and this woman would come in all the time, and say to me, can I speak to you? And it would be about the dumbest shit. She would say, I didn't like the way that you spoke to that person. You should show some respect. And it would be something I would just say to somebody that I didn't know the answer to that question, and that would be it. She would flip. She would go crazy and really go mad at me. And I used to have to go down to sites and stuff and sort out their accounts. And it got to the point where the site was sending my boss emails saying, he's doing such a good job down here, like, we really like him, and is there any chance he can come down more often? Which means I would have time away from my boss, because they knew the situation. They didn't like her at all. They hated her, in fact, which I seem to understand why. And then, so they send this email saying, can we have boss responds by not letting me go down to the site at all anymore. Completely banning me. So I'm doing a good job. Her department looks good. Her team look good. I'm getting good feedback, which is important for my confidence at the time. And she stops me going down. Completely bans me from travelling down to the site. Because at that point, probably around a year on, I had my own car, so I could go to these places freely. So I reported this. I'm sorry, guys. I reported this to our director, who basically said that it's my fault, that she's shouting at me and harassing me every day because I didn't know what she wanted. And I kind of thought, but that's not right. Like, you know, it's not even about work at times. She just slags me off because I didn't smile enough that day. Like, I have so many stories because I could make this video 2 hours long. But eventually I get my qualification and I end up applying for another job because it was making me miserable. It was draining my energy. I was overworked, underpaid, and treated like shit. So I ended up getting another job and I put in my resignation. And she was surprised. I don't know why. But she basically just said it was expected. I thought, yeah, no shit. She basically thought that I just didn't have the drive. And for my first office job in my entire life, to be treated like that, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it obviously impacted my motivation because I just didn't care anymore. So I was so happy to leave that place. But I kept getting notifications on my phone on LinkedIn that she was viewing my profile. And this went on for months. This is a grown woman, guys, stalking a 21-year-old at that time on LinkedIn. It's insanity. The amount of jealousy and spitefulness and sabotage me. Like, I asked her to review a presentation to the team that I was going to deliver. And she looked at it and said, yeah, that's cool. So then I presented it to our team. And I stood up, delivered it, sat down again, and she just picked it apart, made me look like an idiot in front of the rest of the team. And it's things like that, it's these little public humiliations and, you know, not leaving me alone, shouting at me, criticising me for my age and what I can't do yet professionally. She had it out for me from day one. You know, she would tell me that I wasn't the first choice for this job and that they wanted someone else, but they work somewhere else in the department, in the organisation. So I feel like from the get-go it was doomed to fail, and it wasn't because I didn't want to be there. I mean, I still speak to people from there right now, and we go out for drinks at times, and we actually know each other really well. But during my exit survey, I don't know why I always yawn when I make these videos, but in my exit survey, I said that some people aren't meant to be in leadership roles and that they should probably just pass it on to somebody else because some people in the organisation are bullies and they harass people and they're never going to develop any talent if they just keep bashing them every time they come in. I'm still very bitter about the whole thing, and you know, I really, really dislike that woman. And yet, half the company, they've cut people's jobs and sent people away. And yeah, he was very lucky I got out when I did. But yeah, let me know down in the comments if you have ever had a boss like that, or an experience that, you know, made you leave a workplace. I'm very interested to know, because at the time it feels like it's only you, but I would be very interested to know. But that will conclude tonight's Whisper Ramble / story time. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more Whisper Rambles and other ASMR